Good morning, good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to our session today. I am Violeta. I have here Ejaz, who will be your presenter for this session, and there is Emiel, who will answer any of your questions, and my colleague Tom here to help you and offer guidance in case you need during this 1 hour webinar. All right, that was all on my side. I would like to invite Ejaz to the floor now, and let's start the session.
Thanks, Lota. So hi, everybody. My name is Ejaz Akram. I'm part of multi-cloud specialist team here in EMEA at Oracle. Myself and Emil, who's also part of my team, we are here today to take you through the ODSA, a bit of a deep dive and the initial setup. I hope you guys are already familiar with OCI. If not, again, the idea of ODSA is to get you guys working with OCI, but very much in an Azure mode. So with that, can we have next slide, please? So I just want to give you a bit of an overview first with where the service came from and what is the, what's going on in the market, what we are seeing. So there's a lot of uptake in terms of the multi-cloud. So one cloud is really answer, and I'm pretty sure you guys have seen around you in your organizations. A very recent survey, I just want to share a few kind of polls from there. There's about 98% of enterprises use or plan to use multi-cloud. And that's a big number, right? In terms of, almost everybody is in this boat, and everybody is in multi-cloud is a norm now. With 96% enterprise plan to use either a single or more than one SaaS providers. And the cost stays the real, kind of a driver for use of multi-cloud and the services from the best cloud. They want to, a customer needs to, draw their solutions based on the best services from each cloud. And the top 5 future multi-cloud use cases really are data backup, workload, and data mobility. And then we have got, cost optimization, we've got risk mitigation, as well as global service delivery. So those are really the drivers which are going behind the scene in terms of the multi-cloud adoption. Can we have next slide, please? So what we have done at Oracle, really combining the power and the best services from Azure with the best services we have got from OCI and the Oracle database services primarily with this. Hence, it's called Oracle, a database service for Azure. So the idea is that customers can use best of their services from Azure, whatever they are used to, the solution they've already created, or they are creating, or they are looking into transform from their on-premises onto the cloud. It could be, Kubernetes services on Azure. It could be simple as Snaps analytics. So we have got customers already using these. And what we are doing behind the scene, building those highways, those pipelines for connectivity, which are pretty much seamless for the customers to provide, our best services from the database perspective. So you could have base database service where you have got a lot of autonomy in terms of as a customer, you can access and you can maintain that. And that's something we are looking today as well with the rack options of real application clusters, which is, one of the things which is not really supported on many other clouds at the moment. So, and then we have got Exadata database service when you're looking for really high performant, databases with consolidation, scalability. Then we have got obviously autonomous database where it's pretty much hands-free, and from Oracle perspective, we take all the management overhead, all the database administration overhead with us, and customers can just drive and focus on their innovations and applications. Likewise, we have got MySQL HeatWave also available within this offering of ODSA, and that gives customers option, more importantly, with the HeatWave, which is not very common. You can't really find a lot of offering from other providers where you can actually use the analytics within MySQL. So that's the core where you have got, from very base up to very autonomous kind of offering for database service. Can we have next slide, please? Now, the foundation for ODSA is actually Azure Interconnect. And for people who are already familiar with OCI and Azure, we go back in terms of our partnership. So in 2019, we had this Azure Interconnect with certain regions available. And what that gives is the foundation of, the very low latency with the private interconnect between the two clouds. And now we have got 12 regions available. Recently in EMEA, we've created Johannesburg, which is in South Africa, but London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, they're very much EMEA focused. I just highlighted because most of the crowd here is from EMEA region, but we have also presence in other 8 regions as well. Next slide, please. So just a high level I wanted to share here. Obviously, we're going to look in more detail how this service is kind of configured and how we deploy it. But I wanted to give a bit of a high level, design here. So if we start from the bottom of this image on right side, what we have got is under the hood, and that is, what we manage as in from Oracle perspective. We've got our Fast Connect and Express Route connecting the both clouds, and that's seamless from customer perspective. They don't have to do any configuration on that. And then on the Azure side, what we're doing is we'll just do VNet pairing with one of the VNets available on customer subscription, and that VNet normally will host the application VMs. Where we can, you can connect to the database on the OCI side, and which could be just, autonomous space database, Exa, or MySQL HeatWave. Within those two, the other important thing out of box, when we configure these, we are also streaming all the metrics events between the two. So from Azure perspective, if that is your central, kind of operational place, then everything is basically coming in Azure dashboards, and we will see that in action later. And that gives a really, seamless integration between the two for you to adapt and use the service. And then we have got obviously identity layer where the Active Directory, Azure AD, and OCI identity domains basically combined together to give you that identity federation as well in between. Finally, what we will see later is actual ODSA portal, which is in fact running on OCI, but the feel and look is exactly like Azure. So users can access that and provision the database. So again, just to recap the whole idea, as we said before, it's Azure native. There's a lot of automation. You don't have to do, the basic like connectivity or even federation and stuff. It's all done for you. To achieve really low latency, we have got customers running with less than 2 milliseconds as well. Zero downtime, high availability options where you can provision rack. Scalability, you have got obviously option with the Exa, and as well as, completely hands-off option with autonomous. Can you have next slide, please? So I wanted to show you, I think that was more of an intro done. I didn't want to take you too much time on the slides. This is really where we start the initial ODSA sign up. Now, just to remind that it is the whole sign up starts from Microsoft account. So your Azure account will need some particular roles within Azure, basically, to sign up for ODSA. Now, there's very clear and nice documentation available, which clearly defines what are the prereqs. We have shared at the end of this slide deck, there's a link which takes you into the prereqs. You can easily see, so what are the requirements. Once you do the prereqs, I'm just highlighting this because that's really important before you do the initial sign up. So if you already have Azure, you already have OCI, or you're going to sign up for OCI, the most important thing is to read first what are the prereqs as in user for doing the initial sign up. So the screenshots you are seeing now, you will be signing it with your Azure or Microsoft account into Azure with the sign up link, and you'll see you have got some permissions in there which you accept. So can we have next slide, please? And that, what we get is basically two options once you have signed in. You have got fully automated configuration option, or you have got guided. So the fully automated, obviously, then we need more permissions in terms of access in Azure. A lot of time what we have seen with the customers, that's not really what they want unless they're just doing some, testing or POC kind of thing, both on Azure side and OCI. There's nothing going in production as such, so they prefer to go for fully automated configuration. But a lot of production or real customer, they go with the guided option. So the guided option again takes you to account linking, subscription linking, and then identity federation, which is optional, right? Account linking is the key thing, and think of account linking as you're basically letting the two clouds to talk to each other. There's nothing more happening at that point. You're just linking your account, your Azure tenancy subscription with OCI tenancy. That's the key thing, and that's the initial step. Once you go through the, can we have next slide, please? You will see the next option that once you've with the right, access for that user you're signing up with, you will be able to see all the subscriptions available within for that particular person, and you can pick up a subscription and you just can we have next slide, please? So you can select the subscription you want to add with, and that's the linking of subscription option basically. And then, sorry, next slide, please. And then you will see the option for your OCI account. Now that's the OCI tenancy. You could have that already, created, like you can see here, or you have got option to sign up for the new OCI tenancy as well. Next slide, please. And that's simply the last step, really, where you will see this logo for where we are actually doing behind the scene. We're just talking to both OCI and Oracle to create the account link, basically. So once that's completed, the link is done. That generally takes about 5 to 10 minutes, not long. Then you are ready, and you will be landed on a portal, basically, which is the Oracle database for Azure portal. With that, I am going to take you to the portal now for the demo, so you can actually see how it looks like. So I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, all is good.
Excellent. So that's the main landing page for the ODSA. We have got, as we were saying, Oracle services. You can have all the autonomous Exadata, base database, MySQL, heatwave option, and you can navigate into the deployment. Billing. The billing is really about the OCI, not the Azure billing. You can look into subscription management. So once you have done all the linking of subscription stuff, you will be able to see your subscriptions here. And obviously you can raise support. Now there is a role-based access which is created when we actually do the initial linking. And if you have got full access as a support admin, you should be able to raise the support call and, or even look into based on the access type you have got. Within the menu, you've got pretty much the same options here as well, from creating new resources, as well as to see your billing and support options here. So what we are going today is really the base database, which gives you option for the rack. So I'm going to take you through first through the creation of one of the new databases, and then I'm not going to create one, but I'll take you through then the options we have already within the single, within the cluster database we already configured. So here, as you can see, again, it's the feel and look is exactly with what you have the Azure, basically, when you go and provision a resource. So you will see you pick up your subscription, you pick up resource group, and you just give it some name. Then you have got the option to pick up, the region where you want to. And these regions and subscriptions are what you originally, link with the ODSA sign up. And obviously, you can add more as well later on. So next option we have got is configuration. Now, this is really about the database system configuration. So what we are selecting starting from the VM shape type. Obviously, these are the shapes which are available within OCI. And you have got different options in the drop down to pick up, like I'm going to pick 2.4 standard VM shape. So that will give me, 4 OCPUs. And I can select that. Then you have got total node count, and that's where if you want just a single node, or in case of rack particularly, you're going to go for 2 node cluster. As you saw here, that once I selected 2, the software edition is automatically gone into enterprise edition extreme performance, because that's what you need for running rack. However, if I change to single node option, in the drop down, you have got options to pick up either standard, enterprise, or just a high performance enterprise edition. So for now, we're going to go for 2, because that's what we are looking into, particularly for a 2-node rack cluster. You've also got option for the storage, how much storage you're looking at. So you've got different options to choose. I'm just going to keep the default for now. We've got license type, and we support both. Again, you can get license included, or you can bring your own license over as well. Next, we have got really the more details around the database, that what version of database you want to choose, and that could be based on what you have got existing on premise, and what you're trying to if migrate the data. If not, then you can pick and choose. I'm going to pick for the 19 database name. So typically you have got multi-tenant databases here, so a CDP, container database, and PDV, the pluggable database. But obviously you can choose the names as you want. We also got option here to choose your character set. I mean, these are the default ones. But if, again, in the migration case, if you're using a different type of character set, you have got option to pick and choose from the drop down. And that really helps in terms of the seamless migration between the two. Again, I just want to reiterate, the whole feel and look is what you see in Azure resource provisioning. The next option we have is about the security, and here, about the networking. So here we are going to give the database server a host name prefix, and again, that could be any naming convention you're using. The virtual network, and that's something which is, again, because we have hooked up with this particular resource group, everything within that resource group will see. And if you've got hub and spoke or simple spoke, you can pick up any of those, virtual networks. Then you have got to supply a CIDR range with /23 size. And let me just pick up, and this could be the important thing to remember here is that this should be non-overlapping with the CIDR range you're using on the Azure side. And again, on the networking, that's a common practice. You don't want overlapping address ranges. This is what we're going to use CIDR range, as it says OCI CIDR. So we'll create a VCN, which is pretty much equivalent to VNet in OCI, which will host the subnets for the actual database nodes, and that's how you're basically providing that information. I mean, these are something which when you're planning or to deploy, is something you need to look before, like naming convention, the CIDR range, what you want in terms of provisioning, so that's non-overlapping. There's also option for network virtual appliance, but I think that's a bit more of advanced configuration. If you have got hub and spoke and with the firewalls running in OCI, Azure side, then you will be providing your firewall IP addresses here. Next, we have got the security, and again, for the database system authentication, you can generate new SSH keys, or you've also got option to upload an existing key, which is pretty normal practice. Sometimes if you have already got keys available for your management. Password, there is a certain requirement, that's why I've copy pasted here for the password, but when you type in it, it gives you the details that what you need to add. You have option also here to use a separate password for the TDE wallet if you want to, otherwise it will keep the same one. Next is about the management, which is around the backups. You have got option either to enable or disable automatic backups, and you've got different options for you can keep them for 60 days. That's the max by default, or you can have 7 days as required. Again, what you see here, if you want to have longer retention of a backup, or you want to replicate to the remote region, you can create a OCI object storage bucket and enable that replication based on that. You can also pick up your scheduled time. So if you want to do midnight or early morning, whichever is suitable, basically, you can choose from here. Next, we have got tags. Now, just to be sure that these tags are what you will enable in OCI, not in Azure. And again, the idea really is that from billing perspective, you can use the tags. I mean, it just depends. Some people are very keen on them, some people are not. But they are here from OCI perspective. You can pick up either on the database or the database systems. And finally, exactly the same process as you see in Azure resource provisioning, that will run through the validation process, and it will give you a summary before you can go and say, okay, hit create, and it will be provisioned. And again, you can see here all the options we selected from basics of subscription, resource group, database configuration, networking, security management, and tags if we had selected. So that's pretty much the provisioning. Once you hit that, you're looking at the other 3 steps. Well, first, it do the network provisioning between the two. That generally takes between 10 to 15 minutes. And then it will create the database system and the database. And that takes some, depending on the size and the shape, but generally you're looking at about 2 hours for that provisioning to be finished. So I'm going to hit cancel here now, because when I'm going to take you through one of the databases we have already provisioned, and just to show you what are the options you will get there and once you have finished the provisioning of the database. So that's one of the database here, LHRDB1. We provisioned earlier, just to save the time. As I said, it takes the full end-to-end process, can take about up to 2 hours, basically. What you have got here on the overview, again, you'll see all the Azure resource group status, the location, subscription ID, OCI resource, database name, database system, what you have got in here. And then if I go into the database system, you've got all the options like configuration. You can see what we have configured. We've got 2 OCPUs with the 2 node count, the available storage. You can add it. You can change the license type as well. And also, you've got option to scale, basically, if you want to scale up in terms of the number of OCPUs, and you can change here. You can also see all the networking details, OCI Cider, virtual network, which is on the Azure side, and what we have got in router IP address. This is all Azure side. Security, again, the key we generated. In here, you can see the database nodes as well, which are provisioned. Obviously, with the rack, we had 2 nodes here, ER11 and ER12. And you can also look at the database home, where it is located, and the database system. Finally, from here, we can go back to our container database because that's the properties we are looking at. The matrix and the dashboard I'm going to come back to. That's really where you go back into the Azure console, Azure portal to see all the integration and what's creation of metrics and everything. The restore option you have got, you can restore from last the latest backup or timestamp or the system change number. Again, you've got options here to refresh and delete database as well. Tags, as we saw, we didn't really connect it anyone. We didn't really input any tags. The connection string, I think that's very important because this is what really you're going to be using. I'm going to show you actually later when we are connecting to the database. Again, this is pretty same when you're doing database provisioning in any way from OCI or any other provisioning. So you've got both long and short strings available here. You can copy them from here to use. Then configuration, we already saw with the database. This is the container database. The database name, character set, national character set, management, we're talking about the backups. You have also got option to edit if you want to change any of those, either retention or the time when the backups are happening. You can see the backup, already the backups which have been taken place, and from here you can pick and choose if you want to restore any particular one. And finally, you will see a list of pluggable databases which are within these container database. So I'm going to go back to the overview, and if I go from here into the metrics, I want to show you that first. So as we saw in the slides that when the database is provisioned, we are automatically streaming all these events and matrix data into Azure. And what we are doing here, I'm in App Insight, and we've also automatically created a metric namespace for the OCI database. And if I go into the actual metric, just pick up one of them, you can actually see the, like CPU utilization. So the idea really here is that we are streaming all that data for you into Azure, and then you can reuse that either way. So if you have got, your central console or dashboards already created, you can pick up that data both for the events and logs as well. Now, the second option we saw here was around the dashboard, and in the dashboard, it's basically something we are pre-populating or we're pre-creating for you again. And the again, idea for operational integration with native Azure tools is what we are doing here. So with this dashboard, which is already created, I mean, you've got option either to just use this or you can customize it. But you can see the database name here, the count, the node count, the template connection string, and here is the connection string also available for the PDB, so you can connect to the database directly from application server or any applications. Within the dashboard, we have got options to average CPU utilization, execute count, transaction count for this particular database. You've got current logins, average block change. I mean, obviously, it depends how busy the database is. This is a demo one, so a very basic information is there. Again, the key thing to highlight is that you have got a lot of this information which is coming straight from the database into from OCI into Azure for you to consume for your operational purposes. And I think that really makes the difference when you're in that multi-cloud, but you are actually using just Azure as your central cloud provider, and you don't need all OCI skills from day one. As long as you have got the database skills, you provision the database and you can work with it. So what I'm going to show you now, which is near the conclusion of my demo, is that I'm going to actually connect to one of the VMs which we have created within the same VNet, where this database has been paired and created. So that's the virtual machine, which is basically already built, and the same, the connection string you can get from here. I'm going to put that into, and also just want to highlight that we haven't really installed anything in this machine. It's just a Oracle Linux machine with the SQL Plus installed on it. There's an Oracle agent you can just install simply, and you get those installed automatically for you, like SQL Plus and stuff. So I'm just using a simple command for SQL Plus to actually connect, and you can see here this is the actual connection string we are using to connect, and that's just letting me talk to it. Obviously, it's asking for the password. Let me quickly put that in there. I'm just copy pasting most of the stuff rather than typing in, and we are in SQL. You can see it's Oracle Database 19c, extreme performance, and production version is 19.17. I'm just going to run a very simple command to conclude my demo, which will just tell us that we are talking to live database, today's date and time, basically. So with that, I think that's kind of the end of my demo, but I hope you found it useful. And again, the key highlight from ODSA perspective is really a lot of automation for you, as you have seen, very simple steps to create the database from Azure, look like portal, same resource provisioning experience. The second thing is really the cost optimization, because now you can use Oracle database on OCI, which has got a lot of cost benefits, and also you're not paying for things like Azure Interconnect and port charges on ExpressRoute, as well as on OCI Fast Connect port charges. And the third key highlight is really the operational efficiencies you can gain, because again, Azure being your primary cloud, and that is the center of your operations, you're actually performing everything from there. As you saw, you've got all the data being streamed, and you can manage and work with that. So with that, thank you very much for listening, guys. You can take it back.
Thank you, Ejaz. If no further questions, I would like to thank you all for attending the call. Thank you. Yeah.
Violetta, sorry, I think Emil wants to raise one.
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, so there was a question that I answered on the Q&A, but I think it's probably useful to let Ejaz also talk about it a bit. So the question is about cost and what does this service cost? So maybe Ejaz can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's a very interesting question and very commonly asked. As I briefly touched on during the demo, the cost for ODSA itself, there isn't any cost basically. So you won't see any SKU for that. The cost you pay for is purely just for the Oracle database service you choose to use with that. And that could be, again, Exadata, ExaCS, or base database, or autonomous. And I think that's important to just understand that that is a separate kind of a bill from Azure perspective. You're paying just that for OCI. So the bill is not going into your Azure bill. Azure bill is separate. Whatever you're using in Azure for the services, like if you're using Snaps, Kubernetes, or whatever, that bill you pay normally. The OCI side, you just pay for the database service you use. Also to highlight, in comparison with Azure Interconnect service, which we have already, in that you do have to pay for the Fast Connect ports in OCI side, and on the Azure side you have to pay for the ExpressRoute ports and egress charges. In ODSA, all that cost is free So you're not paying or you're not managing any of that, from the provisioning of Interconnect. So I think that's also important to understand. So there's no cost for the connectivity. There's no cost for ODSA itself. The only cost you have to pay is for the database service you use or the storage related to that and licensing and stuff.
Okay, and then there is an additional question just coming into the Q&A, which somebody else also asked earlier in the webinar, or in the normal chat rather than in the Q&A. So you might as well take that now, Ejaz. What about licensing, and how does that work out with if you have rack or if you have single node?
Absolutely. So again, I think during the provisioning, I did show that you've got both options. You can bring your own license for the database, or you can get the included license option. You can choose that. For the rack, you do need Extreme Performance Edition, and yes, you will have to pay either by bringing your own license or for using the license included option. Also, I think you've got, if you're using a single node, then you may not need the Extreme Performance. You can just use even standard. So the licensing option from database perspective, they're all same. Nothing changes in ODSA. The good thing is when you provision, you have got option to pick up either bring your own license or use license included, with all the flavors which are available from standard to Extreme Performance.
Thank you, Ejaz. So I see we've covered all the questions. Thank you all for attending the call. Thank you guys for being here with us and doing this great demo. And of course, we are waiting you in upcoming events. Thank you all and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
Bye.